Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday, the show where we dive into the stories and experiences from people from all walks of life. Today, our guest is Balloon Guy Comedy, who has been making people laugh and smile for almost 35 years. And he's even been on tour with Brooks and Dunn, Toby Keith, and Keith Urban, from stand-up comedy to family entertainment. He's done it all. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Now, thank you for being on the show. Now, for the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, could you give us a quick rundown of who you are and why you do it?
Gotcha. I have been mostly, and most of my living is made as a balloon artist slash family entertainer. I do comedy magic. I do mostly balloons. I also do comedy magic shows for kids, a little bit of stilt walking. As I like to say, anything that keeps me out of a real job. So that's what most of my living. And then 5 years ago, um, I started to get into stand-up comedy, and that was mostly because when I, were doing my thing and I was talking to people, I wasn't just going like, here's a balloon, here's a balloon. I'd have a lot of shtick that I did with it. So they were like, man, you should do stand-up. So eventually I was like, maybe I should. And tried it one time before my 50th birthday, failed miserably like most people do when they start doing stand-up comedy. But I still kept having that little voice in me that said, you need to try this out. You need to keep trying it. And so I did it. And then, so most of my work in entertainment is in the children and family entertainment industry, but I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 5 years now, working on that. Not quite where I want it to be as comparatively, um, because most of my bread and butter is in entertainment industry, but it is on the family children's entertainment side.
Now, I
Does
mean,
that answer your
everyone has a
question?
starting point. No, everyone has a starting point. Now, what's yours? I mean, how did your journey into entertainment begin?
Okay. Gosh, I was always into drama and theater in high school way back in the day. I'm 55, so it's way back in the day. But I was into that, even worked at what we had in Nashville at the time was called the Opryland theme park. It was kind of like Dollywood, wasn't quite Disney. But we were known for shows and we were known for entertainment. And so I started working. My very first job was a General Mills costume character. I was a Big G costume character because they were a sponsor of the park. And so I did that and did that all through high school. Went to college theater studies at DePaul University in Chicago. Got terribly broke after the first year and didn't have the money to continue. So I went back to Chicago and started learning magic and got into that. Did a little bit of close-up magic. Learned from a really great guy. If you have any magicians in the audience, they'll know his name, Eugene Berger. Uh, did some magic lessons with him. Really liked what he taught. Started working for a magic shop in the theme park when I came back to Nashville. And then one day the owner gave me, the guy who ran the magic shop said, you need to try this, gave me a book and a bag of balloons. And I just really liked it and then just kept on doing it and kept on doing it, which has led to all kinds of opportunities. I've done work for, like you said, on the 2001 Brooks and Dunn tour, I did work with Toby Keith. I was with Brooks and Dunn, Toby Keith, Keith Urban, and Montgomery Gentry. Best gig ever. I've done work with the Tennessee Titans, Nashville Predators, even used to do the Grand Ole Opry Bash that they'd have when they celebrated the birthday at the Grand Ole Opry. Armed Forces Entertainment, done a lot of great gigs over the years, and it's just kind of progressed on from there.
Now, what was your first ever gig and how did that go?
My first gig, I did a magic show at a for a Boy Scout troop in Kentucky, I want to say, if I remember correctly, and it went horrible. I wasn't quite ready for that type of gig yet. Almost wanted to go at the end. Just keep your money. Just keep the money, um, because it wasn't quite what I needed to be. But in life, sometimes you need to give yourself that permission to fail. Like just because you fail the first time at doing something doesn't mean you'll never be good at it or that it's you'll never be a success at it. It means the first time you failed, you keep trying, you get better and you get better, and eventually 35 years later I It's most of my living doing children's and family entertainment.
Yeah, how do you adjust your comedy for kids and family?
Um, my comedy is not a kids and family thing. Well, there is bleed over, but I always work as a clean comedian. My main reason for that, do you know who Blippi is? No, he's a character on PBS. If you have any listeners with parents, they know who he is because their little kids watch him. He was a very big character on PBS if you look him up. But he had an incident a few years ago where someone found a YouTube video where he wasn't quite family friendly. And the PBS stopped in and it's like, we love this show, but you can't be Blippy anymore. So most of my work is in children and family entertainment. That's my main bread and butter right now. And for two reasons, I stay clean. Number one, I didn't want a church or some organization to find a video of me doing something obscene stand-up comedy thing and go, ooh, I don't know if we want him for this job. And I am the father of three children. And I didn't want to say, yeah, you guys can't cuss. But if I'm on stage, totally fine. It's, acceptable. And then it also has to go into my own religious beliefs and values.
Yeah, I mean, kids are really unpredictable at times. I mean, what's one of the funniest reactions you ever gotten from a kid?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what kids. Kids will always say, in the old term, if you'll forgive the Bill Cosby reference, kids will always say the darndest things. I don't have one particular one that comes out, but if you do it so long, you just kind of learn how to roll with it. And you have your little phrases. Like if a kid starts going on and on and on about something, you go, "This is a long story," and that'll normally get a laugh from the audience. Um, you kind of have to deflect and redirect sometimes. I've never had one particular, not that I can think of off the top of my head, that was so memorable. That was like, I didn't have a comeback for that, or because I've been doing this a long time, so it's pretty hard to for a kid to do something where I don't have some type of comeback.
Yeah, do you usually like have like a secret balloon or something you have on the side to keep the crowd engaged or anything like that?
Um, well, if you've looked at my stand-up comedy, if you're talking about stand-up comedy or children's entertainment, balloons involve both of them. When I first started doing comedy, I didn't want to do balloons at all. And then I had one comedian was like, knew what I did for a living. He was like, bring the balloons, bring the balloons. And that made me unique and different. And I've been able to mold that into the act as far as something that makes me unique. As far as balloons, balloons are always a part. So I don't necessarily have one secret balloon that I take out and go, ooh, this is the the ace in the hole. The only close thing I have to that is I have a football balloon. A balloon that when you blow it up looks like a football. And for stand-up comedy, I will keep it in my side pocket. And then I have the thing where if you look on my TikTok or Instagram, it's called Football 101, where I blow it up and go regular football. Then I let a little bit of air out and I go Tom Brady football. Um, that normally gets a great laugh. That's about the closest thing I have to some type of ace in the hole I keep.
The one of my favorite jokes of yours is when you put on like a balloon mask of a clown and you're talking about having like going on a first date. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that for me for the listeners? That's
um,
hilarious.
that was based a lot of comedy you kind of take from real life, and I actually used to do clowning years and years ago. Um, as far as my entertainment experience before stand-up comedy and before doing private parties and private events here in Nashville, I did clowning at the Opryland theme park for a summer, and then I ended up moving from that to being the costume character in that was just a roving character at first. But there was another guy who did the kids show, and he did the. I'm taking a long way to answer your question, so I'm going to apologize. Uh, so he was kind of up there. He didn't really do anything. Didn't really have any character to him. But the guy kept getting injured, so they put me in there in the show, taught me everything, and then I actually did character, was able to emote through the costume, which you have to do. The people at Disney don't just sit there and be, stand around, oh, I'm in a costume. They have to emote. They have to do gestures. They have to feel, they're doing these gestures to make them feel like they're the character and that they're relating and they're communicating through the gestures and through what they're doing, their actions. That's what I did. So I did that. Then the Opryland theme park closed, I think, at the end of '97. Yes, it was the end of '97. Um, then I did a theme park for 3 summers in Utah. The guys who worked in Opryland Entertainment that I knew, they were doing a theme park show out in Utah, and they were like, "We're working this park in Utah. We're looking for children's entertainment. Do you want to come do it?" So I did a show out there called The Really Big Show by The Really Big Shoe, where I did clowning most of the time. And part of that is real when when you ask people like, "Hey, I do, what do you do for a living?" And you go, "I do clowning and balloons at parties." They're like, "Oh, that's great. My friends are here. I gotta go. See you later." That type of thing. So a lot of comedy does come from some sense of, hopefully, if it's honest and you're doing that, it comes from something that's real within you and not just something. Sometimes it's made up, but the best comedy I always think comes from a real place.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can see a lot of people asking you, be like, "Oh, you're a clown? Can you tell me a joke?" You know?
Well, that's what they do with comedians. They'll always go, "Oh, can you tell a joke?" A lot of times they'll go, "Oh, can you make a balloon?" I was in a drive-through today getting something in between gigs, and they saw my big balloon hat. That if you go to my website is TN Balloon Guy. TN, like the postal abbreviation of Tennessee, balloonguy.com. And you could see some of I wear this great big balloon, and they saw it in the back of the car. And they were like, "Oh, can I have a balloon?" And they were like, I just wanted to go, "Oh, can I have free food?" Because that's what you're asking for. You never go up to a musician and go like, "Hey, can you go and play a song for me? I know that's your job." That would be like, if you worked in oh gosh, name the job, leave for an accountant. "Hey, could you do my taxes right here? I know you're sitting here relaxing with your family or just doing, but I would really appreciate if you could do my taxes right now. That would be awesome." You would never do that. So what most comedians do, they go like, sometimes I'll do it. Like for the girl, I ended up making a little teddy bear today, just a quick little teddy bear out of balloons. But most of the time, a musician or a magician or comedian, we will go, "Hey, you know what? You can check out my website for, my Instagram, my social media for see stuff. You can come see where the shows I'm going to be at. You could see, as a balloon artist entertainer, I have some weekly gigs that I do for restaurants. I go, "You know what? You can come see me. I'm at this restaurant on Tuesdays from 5 to 8. Come check me out there." And so that's basically what we do.
Now, the way you use balloons is hilarious in your show. And now, how do you come up with like new material for your shows?
Oh, some of it is reality. Some of it is just like, for example, the football 101 thing was a actual bit that I did for years right after the whole Tom Brady incident. And it was just, I wonder if this would move on to here. And it actually does move. The good thing about what I do is sometimes the children's entertainment can sometimes move to the clean comedy area because some of my jokes are like Looney Tunes. If you remember, I feel like you're too young for that, but the old Bugs Bunny cartoons, when you watched it as a little kid, you were like, "Oh, they're being so silly and funny." And then if you watched it as an adult right now, you'd be like, "Oh, wow, that's actually really funny and ingenious." So some of that comes from that. It's hard for the one comedy to go in a different direction, in the other direction, because you have to be kind of churchy clean a lot of times at regular gigs. Um, like the one gig I did with the balloon I did with the cat. I don't know if you saw that one where I had a cat. If it's a boy cat or a girl cat, like an audience member, they'll say like boy or girl, and I'll go like look underneath and go, "Oh yeah, it's that." Um, that actually came from a real life thing where I was doing a subbing for a friend at a restaurant. There was a guest who got really upset by that joke, even though when you're with animals, if you live on a farm, you want to know if something's a boy or a girl, what do? You turn it over and you look. Um, they got really upset by that, and they were go, "Okay," they were like, "We would rather not have him there again." So that was a joke that came from reality. It's just different things that that I do. The Sometimes it's the news. I have a joke that I do where I have a kid with wearing a king's crown, and they go, um, they came from the whole incident where Bud Light had, the one trans person sponsor it, and that was a funny joke that I did. Came from the news. Another thing that came from reality, I have the in my stuff. I have a thing called Tiger King, where a kid wanted a king boy's crown. I made him a boy's crown. He wanted a tiger sword. Then I made him a tiger sword. The kid goes, I'm the Tiger King. We were like, no, you're not. No, you're not. But the kid didn't know. The funny part is the kid didn't know who the actual Tiger King was. This was post, pandemic where he didn't realize who that was. He just knew his school mascot was a tiger. And so he wanted a tiger sword and he wanted a king's crown and he was the Tiger King.
Now you really have to have some creativity when you're making your performances.
Well, thank you. Um,
N- Yeah, what's some of the craziest like balloons you've created over your whole career?
my favorite one over the past year, and you have to look at there are two websites I have. There's the TN Balloon Guy, that's all on social media. I have Facebook, I have Instagram. Balloon Guy Comedy just has TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Um, I don't TikTok, even though I do some on my balloons. If you go to my TikTok page for Balloon Guy Comedy, there is a couple balloons that I do put up. One of my favorite ones from last year, I did Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. That I am not the best balloon artist out there. There's actually a national balloon convention going on right now as we speak, right outside of Atlanta, that I wish I was at but couldn't go this year. Um, that incredible, incredible things. But if you want to see something cool, there's Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy on that TikTok. It gives myself a little bit of variety when I post some things that I create. Go like, this is cool. I might post this on TikTok. And so that's what I do with my TikTok page.
No, I bet like after 35 years, I bet you've made some wild ones.
Yeah, one of the wildest ones I've made, and you'd have to go back in my Facebook page to find it. I made a Optimus Prime costume that you wear. Took about 3 hours to build. People always ask me what's the most complicated you think, and I that's normally where I point them to. Um, if you go to Balloon Convention right now, I don't know if they're posting pictures. I have a lot of friends that are at the convention right now, so I get to see on my Facebook page all the cool stuff they made. Like I had this one friend of mine who made this giant. Oh, I'm guessing it had to be 6 by 8, maybe, of a giant panda head eating ramen, and it was just the coolest thing ever that I've seen. So I'm not the best at what I do as far as creating balloons, but I do what I do. I'm kind of in my lane, where I'm definitely probably more entertainer than artist. Where a lot of guys will create all these wonderful things, and I like creating cool things, but I'm probably more entertainer than I am artist. I like entertaining people, making them laugh, doing that type of thing.
No, you do a really good job. I mean, making a transformer balloon. I mean, like, how long does it really take to make a really detailed balloon figure?
That depends on what you're making. Um, and there are times when I'm working events where I say no to people where they're like, I want this complicated thing. And I'm like going, that's great, but I've got a huge line of people behind you. So I got to make something simpler. Can I do? And I'll suggest something based on what I think they might like. Like one of the things I had to make, but and there are gigs like I had today before I got here. I was doing a fundraiser event for a Hispanic community. They were doing an art show exhibition type event where they were selling art and they were fundraising. And they had me there to entertain the kids that were there. Which is a good thing about this type of event. Most of the kids are bilingual, so I don't have didn't have to worry about the language barrier. Because unfortunately, I'm like most Americans know very little Spanish. But I was able to, communicate with the kids, and it wasn't as busy where kids wanted, let's say, like an axolotl. I can make an axolotl. It's a little bit more complicated. I had one kid came at the beginning, wanted Charizard from Pokemon, and it was a complicated thing, but I was able to do that and make this complicated figure when I had time. And then some events I work, it's like you've got a huge line of kids. We need to keep it going. Let's do it one after the other. We're doing a dog, cat, sword, teddy bear. Just cranking it out quick, just depending on the gig.
Now, what are some of the most common balloon figures kids ask you to make?
Gosh, there's kind of a lemming mentality to where when a kid sees one thing and they like it and they think it's really cool, everyone else will start to come in line and ask for that same thing. Dogs are very popular, swords are very popular, princess crowns for the girls are very popular, hats, a lot of your really basic stuff is the most popular. And sometimes, depending on the gig, I have to talk them out of that. Like, I can make you a dog, or I could surprise you and make you something super cool. And if it's one of those events like today where I had more time, where I could go, you can get a dog, or I could surprise you and make you something super cool. Um, I even got one today where they were like, the kid wanted a snake, and the dad was like, "Oh, that's too easy." It's like, my snake's a little bit more complicated. Why don't you give me a second to try this out? And they were very impressed by it. It wasn't just blowing up a straight balloon and go, "Here you go, snake." Um, Although sometimes I will do that. I will then my bitch and shtick that I do with kids, or I'll blow up a balloon, snake surprise, that type of thing.
Yeah, have you ever had like a balloon pop at the worst possible moment?
Yes, but they only pop once. After that, they don't pop anymore. Sorry, that was a joke you didn't seem to get. Okay, now I got it. All right. I don't know if there's a delay here or what when we're talking to each other, but should I turn on my Wi-Fi, by the way? Would that help out, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter, I don't think, unless
Gotcha. Okay.
if you can hear me loud and clear, it's all good. I mean,
No,
like,
I'm
do you have
fine.
like a favorite?
I normally make my favorite thing depending on what the kid likes. What I've never liked is balloon arts like, well, this is what I want to make. That's like coming to your favorite restaurant and going, yeah, I want this. And they go, no, 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 you don't want that. Let me give you this because this is what you want. It has nothing to do with what they want. It's what you want. So what I like to do is to go like, okay, well, what if I'm surprising somebody? I say, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you like? What do you like to do? What do you like to watch on TV? And then I'll take something that they say and make one of my favorite things based on what they're saying. Um, like for example, I make Spider-Man swinging off the web, swinging on a web, swinging upside down on a web, and it's one of those things that Spider-Man is not only popular, then he's one of those superheroes that are constantly popular. We'll see Superman get to be popular when the new Superman movie comes out, but he's one of those heroes that's constantly popular no matter what. And so I do make a ton of Spider-Mans, and I do like making that balloon, but it all depends on what the person wants. I'll try to surprise them in that confines of what they like. For example, I can make what we know in Nashville as a Nash bracelet. Now, if you live in Nashville, Nash is the mascot of the Nashville Predators. And I have this thing that I put with these two fangs hanging down because we have a thing that we do in Nashville called Fang Fingers. When, if you know hockey, the other team goes in the penalty box and then everybody in the audience goes Fang Fingers. They do that when the other team's in the penalty box. Well, I have a thing with Nash with the fangs that are hanging down that helps them do the Fang Fingers. If I made that for you and you didn't like hockey, or you didn't have any idea what the Nashville Predators were, you would go like, I have no idea what this is. It looks cool, but I don't know what that is. So that's what I try to do. I try to do something that looks cool. If I'm surprising what I like to do in conjunction with what they like, because it's important that they get something that they like.
Can you make any balloon animals for us right now?
If you're getting me the time, let me see what I've got in my pocket. Oh gosh, because I my balloon bag is still in my car. Worm right there, worm. Gotcha. No, I'm sorry. Um, let's see what I've got because I wear cargo pants, and my cargo pants has two pockets. And in one of the pockets, I keep all the scraps. You know what? Let's see what I got here. This is very, very basic from scraps that are in my pocket, but the balloons have different sizes. This is called a 160. If this was a full balloon, it would be 1 inch in diameter. It's thinner in diameter as compared to, let me grab this balloon right here. Makes for great video podcasting watching me blow something up. This is a
Isn't it?
260. There you see the one. Hopefully, you can tell on the camera that the one is thinner than the other. Um, so this, they're not full balloons; they're scraps. But you could just take and just this is what mostly most people learn how to make at the very beginning. Then you learn how to make a little bitty dog, and so this is just a simple balloon dog out of scraps right there. And with kids, what I'll do when I'm doing stuff with kids, as compared to adults, I'll do this. I'll go like, "Hey, can you do me just blowing it like this?" Like, and when they do, the kid does this. It goes that right there, and they'll think that's cool. Um, and then we've got the little balloon dog. There are some balloon stuff I do in my show. I try to not make it balloons for everything. If you go back and look, it's I I sit and talk about my kids, because they're always a great source of comedy. I'll talk about being married. That's always a great source of comedy. Sometimes the well, it's always like, why do you got to talk about that? That type of thing. But it's one of those things when you're married and you're married to a comedian, things you say can and will be used against you in not in a mean way. Like you don't want to go like where after you say a joke, they go like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that." Um, like one thing my wife just got. If you're married, you're not married, I'm guessing, correct?
No, I am
Not
not.
married, single. At some point, marriage is work. And at one point, my wife just looked at me and said one day she was like, "You're just a stubborn old goat." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa! You think I'm the greatest of all times? That is so great." And so she just shook her head. And eventually I was like, "That's funny." And I wrote that down. And that's one of the newer jokes I'm using right now when it comes to being married.
No, it's really funny how you can use real life stories to make it basically like comical.
Oh, yeah. Life is fun. There's funny stuff all around. I've always said. It's you just got to know how to find it. The funny is all around you, and even in the everyday situations. Um, and then add in three teenagers, which I have in my house. That definitely makes it interesting. One of my favorite jokes right now, especially after this last election cycle, I have a teenage daughter who's 15. And I say, people, when you have a teenage daughter, they're like Kamala Harris, and you become press because they will not talk to you. Because that was the thing that Kamala Harris was known for during the election. She wouldn't necessarily talk to the press. Um, so there's funny all around.
No, comedy can turn like a bad day into like funny stories, you know?
It can, and they could turn. I'm working on some comedy bits right now where I had to bring from the children's area to the adult area where I had um, a parent that got mad at me, or they didn't get mad. At the very end of my show, the very beginning of my kids show, and I do a kids show for kids at birthday parties, I make this road runner, and at the very end, the kid who's hopefully the birthday kid gets it as a prize. And then what they do is I go, okay, you can either have this balloon and at this particular party, I pointed to another 5-year old. There's like, you can have a date with that girl right there. Well, the mother of that girl came to me afterwards and said, "Can I give you some friendly criticism? If anybody, you're a performer and somebody wants to give you friendly criticism, that's never a good thing. That's normally like, I have a complaint and it's guised as that." Um, and they go, the lady went, "You might want to avoid the whole dating thing at that age." And I was like, outside you go, I'll really consider that. That's great. Inside, you're going like, lady, do you think tag is Tinder when they're playing that? I don't know. I mean, that's the funny part. I'm trying to work on that and make that a joke. You take those situations and put that. I'm just that's the one thing as far as the comedian that I'm not great at yet. That trying to take the stories and putting them in more of that context as compared to the one liners and the quick things that I tend to be better at.
Yeah, I mean, comedians say what we're all thinking, but too scared to say.
We don't have. There are times my wife looks at me and goes, inside voice, and that's probably where I need to not say something out loud that she can just tell by the expression on my face that I'm getting ready to say.
Now, can you share one of your favorite jokes with us right now?
Oh. One of my favorite jokes, and this was a whole thing that I once again comes from real life. Um, Not all church people like this joke. I did this joke. I was doing a show in Ringgold, Georgia yesterday. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, but I was in Ringgold, Georgia, doing a comedy show, and I'm glad it worked with this group because I knew it was a Christian group, but not all Christian groups get this joke and like this joke. I talk about being a Star Trek fan, and I say, you know what? There are actually some people think there are disadvantages of being a Star Trek fan, but there are actually advantages. Like when I was in high school, and I told my youth pastor that I was a Star Trek fan, they did not make me sign that pledge that said I would remain a virgin until the day I got married. Said it was a waste of my time. Now there are some Christians that remember the whole true love waits thing, and they're like, no, that's not funny. Come on, that's serious. And most people who kind of can take that lighthearted because they know Star Trek fans are not ones with the ladies. That's why I didn't have to sign that pledge. Um, got a good laugh last night, which I was very fond of. That joke got a good laugh last night.
No, that's actually really funny. Now, if your younger self could like see you right now, what do you think he would say?
Oh gosh, I don't think my younger self would have ever seen myself doing this, or probably wouldn't have. Like I never saw myself doing full time entertainment. I always thought about doing I knew I'd eventually find something because I went to college, went to DePaul University, like I said earlier, terribly broke, ended up not finishing my college degree, although I am a continued supporter of learning. I love audiobooks, I love learning. That's a never ending process. And I found a skill that I'm able to do that keeps me from going, hey, would you like fries with that? Which I think is important for anybody. I always tell young people when they're like getting into theater or some type of entertainment, I'm like, have another skill that you do because at some point you're going to need that skill. I never saw myself doing full time entertainment. Wasn't quite sure what I was doing, but I just kept doing it and kept on doing it. And then people kept giving me, it got to the point where people started giving me money. And then they started giving me more money. And then it was like, I eventually quit real jobs because I was getting too busy with the other stuff and it didn't make any sense. Like the other jobs were getting in the way. Not that I've always been full time. For example, during the pandemic, that was the horrible time for all of us entertainers because I was in Nashville. I was walking around Opry Mills. It's a mall that we have here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's one of the Mills malls that you find across the country. And I was walking around with my best friend who happens to be a children's magician. And we were sitting there having a great time. And they announced, like right before I go in, the governor announced they were shutting down the state. And then all through the day, it's like, text after text, this gig canceled, this gig canceled, this gig canceled. I was walking through the mall. Most depressing day ever. But thankfully we're getting on the tail end, the economy is getting better, at least it feels it's getting better and things are improving, not quite the same, but it's getting there.
Now, what do you hope people take away from your story?
Um, I would say, and I was thinking about this earlier because your thing is like every day is Friday is the name of the podcast. Um, do something. I always like the thought of what do you like to do when you're being you? So what do you do? What do you do naturally? Now, hopefully, that's not sitting around each watching Law and Order and eating nacho chips. That's hopefully it's something that's a little bit more productive to society than that. For me, it was always being creative. It was humor. So the two things I would say is first of all, what do you do when you're being you? And then go after that, explore that. Doesn't have to be full time. Maybe you take a step in and maybe you do it a little bit here and a little bit there and see what happens. Maybe you're doing it enough, something enough to where it's your fuel where you don't necessarily wild about your day job, but you're okay with your day job because you have this thing that gives your life and gives your life meaning that you enjoy doing a lot. And then secondly, I would say to everyone is, and this comes from a Zig Ziglar, who I always suggest if you've never read Zig Ziglar stuff, great motivational speaker, business teacher. He was talking one time about doing this lady who came in and she made a dress. And the first time this lady came in and made a dress for one of her daughters, it was the most horrible thing. But the lady kept working on it, and eventually those dresses looked better than anything that you could buy in a department store because she really liked doing it. And so my thing is with that, give yourself permission to fail. Give yourself permission to go like, it's not going to work this time. It's not going to work the first time. Might not work the second time or third time, but if you really want it and you really feel that there's something there, keep on doing it. For me, doing stand-up comedy, it was the scene from probably before your time. There's a movie called The Officer and a Gentleman, and Richard Gere's in that movie with Louis Gossett Jr. And Louis Gossett Jr. is the drill sergeant and just giving Richard Gere the hardest time, wanting him to quit, making him do these all kinds of things, trying to get him to quit. And finally, Louis Gossett Jr. just gets fed up with him, the fact that he doesn't want to quit. He's just quit, just walk out, just turn in your stuff. You're done. And finally, Richard Gere gets up and says, "No, sir, I've got no place else to go." Um, Great movie scene. Go YouTube it. Go watch it if you're watching this. But I'd say for me in comedy, it was like there was no place else to go. And for me, I knew it, even though I'm not there yet, I know it's out there. I know it's out there when I had a great show last night in Ringgold, Georgia with Big Rich Comedy. Um, I know it's when I have a great gig that people laugh. It's like that thing is out there and you find pieces of it. So keep on doing it. Don't stop. Find something that you love and do it because that gives your life that fuel.
No, that's a great way to put it. I mean, go chase your dreams because your dreams will not chase you. I mean, has anyone from your past ever reached out after seeing any of your comedy skits?
No, not really. Um, but I still kind of feel new in that. And you gotta understand, I have some people kind of view my stuff online and they kind of think it's neat. Um, I'm 55, so a lot of 55-year-olds and people in my age range, they're not as apt to go out to a comedy show as much as somebody your age might want to do. They're not apt to do that. Um, but that's so it's not but it's okay if you have somebody. When I started doing entertainment work, my parents weren't wild about it. They were like, you were really smart in school, why are you doing this? And it's something I really wanted to do. And then finally my dad, I remember, my mom telling me when he was at his church, he was talking like, yeah, Sean's on the road with Brooks and Dunn doing his thing. And that was something he could say, like, yeah, he's on the road with Toby Keith and Montgomery Gentry, and that's what he's doing. And he didn't quite understand it, but he knew something was happening.
No, that's so true. I mean, that's some like unforgettable experiences you've had. Now, what was it like touring with like Brooks and Dunn, Toby Keith, and like Keith Urban?
It was the best gig ever. I'm not going to lie. I wish it was funnier where I could make it a joke, but we got really spoiled. Um, because at the beginning they have something, I don't know if you're familiar, it's called craft services. Craft services, when you're on a video shoot or a gig or a tour or something like that, is when they bring out all the food and stuff like that where you could sit and munch and eat. And so for it, when we were first starting this gig, we were like grateful for anything. It's like, oh, they even have pizza and they want us to get pizza. Oh, that's great. And then about midway through the tour, we start getting spoiled. Like we'd wake up in the morning, is like, there's no omelet station here at this that they're making. Oh, what's the meaning of this? Just whole sandwiches for lunch. Oh, come on. We got spoiled super fast, but it was a great gig. I had an interaction mostly with you didn't interact with the stars most of the time. Most of the time you interacted with the tour managers and everything. We did interact with Ronnie Dunn a little bit because his kid at the time was like 7 or 8, something like that he brought on the tour with him. And so of course, she was interested in the balloon guy. Um, so I had a little bit of interaction with him. What did interaction I did have with him, they were all very cool. They were all very nice. It was a really great tour and that everybody got along. There wasn't a huge conflicts. Just everybody did their thing and enjoyed it.
Now, there's always like some unexpected wild stories from being on the road. I mean, did you ever have any like unexpected moments while on tour?
Oh gosh, what can I say here that I had unexpected moments? Um, the one time I think of is where I forgot stilts. I was a stilt walker in that and literally left my stilts at home. So I had to, luckily, there was a Home Depot near the venue, and I called them up, they had stilts in stock. So I bought whatever they had, adjusted them, kept the receipt, and returned them in Nashville. So I wouldn't have to pay extra money because stilts can be expensive, a couple $100 for a pair of stilts. So that's one of the things I had to do. Um, there was one time I didn't hang out with the group's after party stuff that they did because they normally went to a club and they would have this after party thing somewhere after the shows. And I didn't do a lot of that except for one time. And it was, oh gosh, we were up all night and it was just, even trying to drive through places and I was with this one guy who was an Elvis impersonator that was on the tour and we had to go through tolls and we didn't have money for tolls because we forgot cash and with cash only and had to work something out with them. Um, that was the biggest thing. There wasn't any one incident that was like really wild. We had some wild people on the tour uh, that like to have a lot of fun. Let's just put it that way. They like to have a lot of fun. Um, but I was kind of more the clean guy because I was never into some of the stuff that they did. Let's just put it that way to keep it family friendly. I was never into the stuff that they did. I was mostly a family friendly guy. So, I had a little bit of fun, but not anything on the level that they would have. But you kind of went the one time to the after party just because you wanted to see what it was like and what it was there. Ended up being up way too late, not getting any sleep, and then having to work the next day. And let's just say I only did that once, and after that, I was like, no, I'm good. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, like 35 years of like teaches you a lot. I mean, what stands out the most? I mean, what's some of the biggest lessons you've learned in your career of doing the balloon and comedy skits?
The biggest. This is the thing I've learned in the past year, and because part of it has to deal with an agent that I'm dealing with here in Nashville in my life as a children and family entertainer. Um, one of the big lessons I've learned is this is the math that we do as people sometimes. We let 100 compliments plus the one minus the one criticism equals one criticism. That's what we take. Um, and so I've learned, especially over the past couple of years, maybe, because I'm very good at what I do and I'm very popular at what I do. I stay booked a lot. If I have one person that doesn't like me, I don't let that bother me because I know I have, like, for example, I have some restaurant where, I did the thing where I was making a balloon for a kid. And I was like, it's a bit I do even to this day. It's like, you can either have this balloon or I'm talking to a 5-year-old boy, or you can have a date with that girl, teenage girl behind the counter. And the mom got really mad, complained to the management. I ended up getting fired. And at the time that really bothered me. And then to realize afterwards, I not only replaced that restaurant, I replaced it with a couple restaurants that were better, that paid more money. Um, so I don't get upset when somebody gets upset when they don't like me. I don't let that criticism. The other thing that I do, and this is very geeky, is I will take all the gigs I do in a year and put them in a spreadsheet and do statistical analysis of what those gigs are. And I can tell you at least 50% of the work I do in a year, I'm either somebody has seen me at an event and then wants me at their event, or it's somebody who hires me over and over again. Um, I had one situation that happened this past year. I was at a church and my time was up. I'd cut my line off. I had a sign on the back that says, "This is my last person in line." I hand out tickets to make sure nobody cuts in line. I'd cut it off and I was doing that. Then this old guy comes up and he says, "So who?" I was just letting him know, "Hey, sir, just to let you know, you're more welcome to sit there and watch, but just to let you know, I've cut off my line. These are my last people in line." And he was just still insistent, like, I want something. And then he comes up to me and he says, who do you work for? And I was like, "I work for me. I'm now contracted by your children's minister." He said, "Well, let me pull some rank on you right now. I've been at this church for over 50 years." And without thinking, I said, "I don't care." And, and it was one of those things, it was normally not something that you should say. Normally not something you should say. But at the time, the guy was so brazen about, like, "I've been at this church 50 years, and if I want something, I should get it." I was like, "I don't care." And the reality of the situation was that was a gig in October. October is my busiest time of year. Um, that church could never call me, which they have called me and booked for October already. But if they never called me again, I was like, I would have replaced them. I could have replaced them 3, 4 times over with calls that I get in for October. So I don't let that criticism or that situation gets on me. The luckily thing in that situation was the children's minister really liked me. And I expressed what happened to the children's minister when she came up to me at the very end. And there happened to be somebody who was there who saw that whole situation, who backed me up, going, "Yeah, that guy was really rude." And she was like, "I don't care. You don't mess with my balloon guy." Because I do work with her, that church, all the time. So I came out good. Normally, not a thing to say as far as, like, I don't care when somebody tells you that. But that was what spurted out, I think, of the frustration of the situation. So don't let that one criticism, especially when you know what you do, you know the value you bring, and you can look at your own statistics of what you do. If you have something where one person doesn't like you, but 10 other people are calling you, you know you have something there, and to ignore the one person and focus on the 10, because not everybody's going to like you.
Yeah, I mean, try to keep it professional as all times, but like at the same time,
Yeah,
don't let your emotions control your reality.
I wasn't necessarily professional right there by saying I don't care, but it's what came out. And the reality of the situation, if the lady said, "Hey, we can't bring you back," I'd been like, "That's all right." Um, I'd have been fine, and I would have booked that spot several times over because, fortunately for me, the difference between my comedy life and my children, family, entertainer life is there's tons of comedians out there. There's tons of comedians out there. I do the Zany's open mic at Zany's Nashville, and there are tons of comedians that show up every single week trying to get a spot. If I tried to act like a diva and was trying to be think I'm better than everything, somebody'd be like, okay, I'm getting the next guy. Luckily for me, there are not a lot of balloon artists in Nashville. There's maybe just a handful. And I try not to be the diva. I want to be respectful. I like people. I want to keep my clients happy because that's how I get repeat business, how people call me over and over again. So you want to be respectful, but at the same time, you know your own value. And to say goodbye to someone or say, this isn't working out for us, it's not always a bad thing. It's always can be good things when it's not working out for you. If you're doing something, you're trying something that you, and I'm sorry if I'm going on and on. If you're doing something, you're trying something, and you have that one person that doesn't like you, and you have all these other people that go, we think we like you, think there's something here. Focus on those people. Don't focus on the other people who don't like you, because that's just a waste of time and energy.
Yeah, I mean, one door closes, another one will open.
It really does.
Now, I mean, how has the entertainment industry changed since you started?
Oh gosh, so much has changed as far as technology has played a big part. I remember when I first started, we had paper maps. We didn't have. You have to remember, this is 35 years ago, so the smartphone wasn't invented yet. Maybe you had a cell phone, but cell phones were very in the infant basis. They were expensive. Um, so you didn't necessarily technology's played a huge part where like you used to have paper maps. Now you press a button on your phone, it says go this way, go that way, go that. Keeping track of everything on your phone. Social media has made because part of my job every day, which I'm amazed at how much, whether it's in comedy or in the entertainment portion, you have to constantly putting out in social media, which I'm not the best at. You would think as long as I've been trying on both that I would have more. Um, but it's one of those things that you constantly have to be putting on social media. That's a part of your job now, and some people hire that out. I know comedians and clubs and people that have their own social media manager, and that is their job to put out social media for them every single day and know what time to put it out, when's the best time, and how to get that engagement. That's the biggest thing, I think, the social media and the technology that has went for all this.
Now, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be be a entertainer?
Oh gosh. What we said earlier is have a real job, or not have a real job, have a skill just in case things don't work out. Don't give up, like we talked about earlier. If it's something you really want, keep doing it. I sometimes I think about the people when I started out in comedy in 2020 during the pandemic, and there were a bunch of people that started it because they were like, I want something different in my life, because that's what we all were during the pandemic. Um, to see the people that decided, no, I don't want to do this. And it's okay if you try something and it doesn't work, and you decide you don't want to do it. That's totally okay. I don't want you to, anybody or the viewers to get that thing in their head. Like, if I have to stick with it if they make that decision. There was one time I decided in life, what would be a great side hustle? To repair iPhone screens, broken iPhone screens. So I spent a lot of money learning, going through these classes, learning to repair iPhone screens, to replace them, um, only to find out, no, I don't like that at all. Because if you ever worked on an iPhone, the screws are smaller than baby ants. That's the thing about them. Also, when you think about somebody's phone, that's their life. That's their livelihood. That's their connection point. So I got a lot of anxiety trying to work on somebody's phone, and if it didn't work right, um, so so I decided, that's not the thing for me. It's okay to work on something and say not for you, but if you really want it, keep doing it. Keep working on it. Find a way. Um, don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Try to vary. Try to find different results. Insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and something different. I can't tell you how many comedians I see that go, I've heard you do that joke a gazillion times, and it hasn't changed once that you're trying at open mics. Um, just know that sometimes when you're trying something new, it's going to be the end of the movie Shawshank Redemption. Um, if you've ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, great movie if you've never seen it. The guy is escaping from prison and he has to go through this huge tunnel of poop and sewer and garbage to get to the end to get to freedom. And that's what finding your goals is sometimes, that you have to go through all of that because open mics or can be horrible. They can be grueling. There's a good old boy system where, hey, I'm going to support my buddy here, even though you let him go up, even though he just got here and you've been here for a while and actually buying food and drinks. But this is my buddy. I'm going to let him up now, um, type thing. In children's entertainment, it could be you're working a really bad birthday party and it is not fun. And but you got to get through it and go like, okay, this is what I've learned from this situation. That I would say is the best things I could say to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, being on stage really takes a lot. I mean, what's one of the most important skills an entertainer should have?
Stage presence, being able to communicate with someone. It's that stage presence. What you see from new comedians and new entertainers, it's this thing where they're talking like they're saying the lines, but they don't have a lot of inflections, and they're not used to that. They're using their stage voice where it's not a natural tone, and they're saying this joke, but it would have been much more funny if they had an inflection in their voice, or if they, to learn to speak. So, um, if you're looking to do comedy, take a class. If you're looking to do entertainment, whether it be children's entertainment or something, take an acting class, take an improv class, take anything that will help you. And then just know that you're just going to have to put in stage time. There is, even doing stand up comedy for 5 years, there is no substitute for stage time. You still have to get it, you still have to work at it. Now, there are other comedians I know that are much farther along the lines. I have the opportunity to work with some great dry bar comics. Their stage time is different because they can kind of work new stuff into their sets, and maybe they'll have something new every once in a while where they get they'll go to an open mic, but because they're so much farther along than me, they don't have to go to open mic after open mic after open mic. Where I'm in still, almost 5 years in, I'm still looking for the open mic. I'm still looking for that stage time. Still looking to perfect what I do.
Now, what's some of the worst places you ever performed at?
Oh gosh. I've done some really horrible birthday parties. I've done on the birthday party side, I've done a party where, and I can tell you this, as a children and family entertainer, I can go in with the first 5 minutes. I can tell you whether the parents are involved in the kid's life or not. Whether they want to throw a party because they're involved and they want to be in that, or they're doing this party because they're not involved and this is their way to show them that they love them, which showing love to a kid is being involved every day. Um, One of the blessings that I had in this job is being self-employed and stuff like that. Yeah, there are things that I miss. Like I miss some of my kids' activities sometimes because I already had a gig on the schedule. And then there are little times where I get to take my kids to school every day and pick them up from school every day and have those conversations with them about life and such. And that's the blessing. But I was walking in this particular party and I could tell it was I won't mention a name, but at one point in the 80s, he was big in the contemporary Christian industry as a singer. Um, and his kids and all the kids there were the biggest brats. And the guy who booked me for the show said, I've never seen you during a show. I would like to, and the birthday party, the birthday kid was such a mess. He's upstairs crying in his room. The mom's upstairs with him, and the mom just doesn't know what to do. Um, and it basically gets to the point where, the kids, some of these kids were just bratty kids who are really mean, who just like, I'm going to sit and heckle it because nobody, the other parents would be the adults in the room wouldn't be the parents. Um, as my job as the entertainer is not to be the parent. I only step in and give the boundary only when it's absolutely necessary, but I'm the entertainer. I'm not the parent. So it was a really bad party. And it was one of those events where as soon as my time was up, I was packing up and heading out that door. And then there are parties I do where they're really great. Oh, my time's up. Well, I need to make a few more things. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I can, they're really fun. And those are the parties I enjoy, that I'll end up getting a tip from or a phone call from. Again, on the comedy side, oh gosh, open mics can be the most grueling things because your job is to be up there and tell jokes at a place where people don't care. Um, they go to a bar because they want to have a drink, they want to have food, whatever, hang out with their friends, and they didn't come to see a comedian, to see an open mic. It just happened to be there where they were at. And the thing I always get upset with comedians is when they go, "Hey, could you guys keep it down? I'm trying to do my thing up here." When I just want to tell the comedians, like, these people that you're talking to, they're buying food and drink, and which supports the bar and keeps them in business. You're not keeping the bar in business. You're up there. So your job as the entertainer is to try to do something to grab their attention and make them like you and make them want you. That's the bad thing about open mic.
Yeah, I can only imagine some of the gigs that you performed at. I mean, some moments just stick with you.
Yeah, they do. Um, but they're more good than they're bad. If not, it wouldn't be worth it. But they're great moments. I enjoy what I do on both ends. Um, Sometimes you got to make the call. Like, for example, I had a gig where somebody called me for a comedy show in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is about 4 hours from here. And they were like, you could come, you could crash at my house, and they'll pay you this amount of money. And I was like, I had to say no because the next morning I would have had been back in Nashville. It's a 4 hour drive. Comedy shows happen late and everything happens late. So in a 4 hour drive, I would have had to drive back to Nashville that evening, get a few hours sleep, be up early the next morning to do a gig in my other world, which my world as a balloon guy pays a lot more money and is mostly supports my family. So I had to go, you know what? I'd love to do that show. And I really hope you keep me in mind for the future. But I can't do that comedy show because I got to be up early the next morning in Nashville doing a gig here. So I had to say no to the comedy gig. Um, and then there are times you make room for that. You make space. Like I'm going to be at the Comedy Catch in Chattanooga, March 20th, and that is my first comedy club type thing. And it's kind of a showcase where it's not like a regular comedy gig where they say, we're paying you this amount of money, you do the shows on the weekend. It's a Thursday gig. It's a, but it's where they get to see you. And hopefully somebody goes, hey, he's pretty funny. I could bring him into a show at one weekend. So,
No, that's cool stuff. Now, and what's one of the best reactions you ever gotten from a fan?
um, as a balloon guy, or I think the best reaction, I have this up on my TikTok, um, where I'm doing a comedy show in a coffee place. And there's one, I'm guessing about 10, 11-year-old kid in the audience. And I'm sitting there talking to the kid at the beginning. I'm like, you're going to like me. And I'm going to tell you why you're going to like me. Do you know why you're going to like me? And she goes, yeah, because you're a balloon artist at my gig the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, I never get recognized anywhere. But she knew I was the balloon. It's a great video on my TikTok. Go check it out. It was where this little girl had recognized me as Sean the Balloon Guy. I normally don't get recognized a whole lot as a comedian. I think there was one time I was doing a show. In Nashville, I think it's a foot doctor. He goes by Dr. Ben, but he's a very accomplished and he wanted to do comedy and he's doing great at it. But he had me on a show with him and he had all his doctor friends show up, sold out this venue. Um, and then I was walking out of that gig, out of a restaurant that I was doing balloons at, and somebody was like, "Hey, weren't you on the Dr. Ben show?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was." Because normally I never get recognized. I actually have a joke on my stuff where I talk about where I never get recognized, even though I've done all these big gigs. I never get recognized anywhere.
No, it's always rewarding getting recognized. I mean, do you have like a favorite joke for like some young kids that always work?
Oh, geez. Oh, there's a lot of shtick I do with kids. Oh, I'm trying to think of one particular joke. Oh, no, my favorite joke. I got it. Okay. This is a joke that I do with kids when somebody asks for a dinosaur. I normally make them a T-Rex. And I always tell them this is my favorite joke. I say, "Do you know why a T-Rex can't clap their hands? Because they're
Why?
extinct. Because they're extinct." And because that of the way I do it, it normally gets a great reaction. And because you have to tell it, you have to punch that because they're extinct. Because they're expecting, oh, because they have short hands. And that I always tell them is my favorite joke right there, that particular joke, which I think I got from a Google Home, little Google Home device where you used to, you can tell me a joke. Amazon wants two horrible jokes, but the Google one actually tells good jokes. And I had a Google Home at the time and I asked it and it told me that joke. And I was like, I'm going to use that joke. That's a great joke.
Yeah, I mean, after all these years, I mean, what do you love most about being a performer?
I love being on stage. I love making people happy. That's a very rewarding part of the job. Um, so that's the most. It's making people happy. And it's something I realized a long time ago. Have you ever seen? Might be before your time. The original Muppet movie.
No.
Oh, you should watch it. It's a great movie. Um, the original 1978, I want to say Muppet movie. Fantastic movie. Kermit the Frog is, if you in the movie, the opening scene, he's singing the Rainbow Connection. Um, and he's in the swamp, and then all of a sudden, Don DeLuise comes along, famous actor before your time. Don DeLuise comes along on a boat, and he's trying to find his way through the swamp. And then he was like, "Wait a minute, hold on one second." And he pulls out a newspaper and says, "You've got some talent. I heard what you were doing. You could come to be Hollywood and be rich and famous." And he was like, Kermit was like, "No, I'm kind of like it here at the swamp." And he's like, "Come on, you should think about it. You could make millions of people happy." And he was like, "Millions of people happy? I'd miss the swamp, but I could make millions of people happy." And then he goes on the journey. Go watch the original Muppet movie, one of the best children's movie ever. It's not necessarily always for children because it has that aspect kind of like Looney Tunes where it has the humor for adults and the humor for the kids. Some of it is very stickish, but still a great movie.
Now, do you ever like think about writing a book or like doing a show about your experiences?
I've never thought about that. Maybe one day. The only thing I've thought about is doing a podcast series called what I would call Twist Talk. And it would talk about the things that I've learned in 35 years, where I would go, it's not the common things that we always talk about in the industry that could be used for other entertainment industries as well. One of the things that I discovered when I was uh, doing a balloon artist for 30 years at the time, then starting to get a comedy. I took a business of comedy class by somebody by the name of uh, Rick Roberts, who's a comedian in Nashville. Um, he had a business of comedy class, and one of the things that I was really impressed by is how there are so many similar things in entertainment industry. There are things that translate whether you do comedy, whether you do children's entertainment, whether you do magic, whether you do whatever in the entertainment industry, there are things that are universal all around, like contracts, dealing with cancellations, um, how you look at an event. Think about that. One of the things I talk to entertainers about is that you have to think about the way you look, and that form should always follow function. Think about it. Peter Parker is still Spider-Man when he's not wearing the outfit. But when he puts on that outfit, he becomes something more. Bruce Wayne is still Batman, still has that ability and everything. When he's Bruce Wayne, he's kind of pretending to be someone else. But when he puts on that outfit, he becomes something else. That's where I would, one of the things I've thought about talking about in the podcast series is going, hey, you need to think about the outfits, because when you have an outfit, that becomes something as compared to wearing street clothes. When you have an outfit that you wear, you become something more, and people go, he's something special. Not that it has to be, if you're a comedian, it doesn't have to be a suit and tie, unless that's your personality. But you have something that you wear to go like, he's something special. He didn't just reach in his t-shirt drawer and grab something and walk out. There's something different about him.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a whole bunch of exciting things ahead. I mean, what's next for you in your journey?
Um, well, right now in the children's entertainment world, I got some projects that I'm working on. Now that we're more post-pandemic, I've got some more restaurants. I want to do some more family nights during the week. Um, because it's changed from being a lot of restaurants wanting to do weekly kids nights to where they want to do them like once a month in their restaurants. So I've got one restaurant I'm working on that'll be a new weekly restaurant that I'm really looking forward to. I've got some new show stuff I want to work on when I do the family and children's entertainment on the comedy side. I'm working on building a website. I actually own the domain name Balloonguycomedy. Um, I've got an electronic press kit, and getting better about just sending that stuff out and trying to see what happens. Um, Trying to grow more, write more, get new material. It's kind of weird. I'm 55 and I have some friends my age. They're going like, wow, what about, they're thinking retirement. And I'm like, why would I want to retire? I'm having way too much fun. And if you read some books and stuff like that, I don't always think retirement's always the best thing, as far as that when you retire, you sit and you do nothing. Because if you look at some famous people, when they retired, they died shortly after because life was just over. And I don't think life should be over when you're tired. You should always have something. Dick Van Dyke, for example, he's 99, 98, 99, and he always finds something to do. It's his barbershop quartet that he works on sometimes. He'll do a movie role every once in a while if it's something he enjoys. Um, he does stuff always that he enjoys, that he keeps active at. Um, eh, on the flip side, Bear Bryant, the famous football coach from University of Alabama, as soon as he retired, he passed away. Um, and so that's why I think, I'm not thinking retirement. I'm thinking, what's next? What can I keep doing this? Because I'm really enjoying the ride. Eddie Money,
Yeah.
if you know the famous singer, he was touring all the way up into the time he died. He was still doing shows. Now, maybe not as many shows as he was doing when he was younger, but he still had a nice tour schedule that he was doing all over the place. Bob Newhart, if you know who he is, the actor slash comedian, he's like older than dirt. Excuse the terminology, but he's still doing shows every once. Now he's doing like casinos and he's doing shows for older people and stuff like that. But he's still working,
Yeah, I
and
mean, I
his
think
life is better for.
happiness looks different for everyone.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Now, how do you define happiness?
Oh gosh, that's a very deep question to ask right off the bat. Um, I happiness comes from not your circumstances around you, but it comes from within, from doing stuff from within. I would say the best answer off the top of my head, because your circumstances around you will change. But if you're doing things focusing on you to make you happy, doing those things that drive you. Um, a great book I just read recently, John A. Cuff, great author. If you've never heard of him, he wrote this book called "It Takes a Goal," and he talks about best moments, writing a list of best moments where these are the things that you do, and you'll notice a pattern as you write, like, these were the best moments, and um, those are the things that drive you and keep you going. Those are the things that make you happy, even no matter what the outside circumstance is. Like for me, it would be, hey, talking to my kids or hanging out, doing a show somewhere. Those are the things that drive you, that has nothing to do with who's the president in the White House or how the economy is doing or whatever. Those are the things that keep you going and make you happy.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, happiness looks different for everyone.
Oh
And
yeah. But I would say it comes from within, and that could be the definition of joy and not happiness. Because it's your external circumstances can change at any moment. But what comes from inside hopefully doesn't change. The things that drive you, the things that that bring you joy.
no, that's great insight. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share for the listeners before we head out?
We are looking at an hour and 16 minutes. I would say we're done. But if they have anyone, they can follow me on social media. These are some things I should shout out. On TikTok and Facebook, I am TN Balloon Guy. On Facebook, you might have to search Sean, Sean, the Balloon Guy. You can follow me on social media. On that, in the balloon artist world. In the comedy world, I'm Balloon Guy Comedy. Um, and that's on TikTok, on Instagram, and Facebook. I normally post videos. I post shows that I'm doing, um, things like that. I just got some video in from the show I did last night, and can't wait to do it because I got some great reactions, some great reels I know I'm going to get from that. So I have to work on that Sunday night to post for Monday morning.
Yes, and all your stuff will be down in the description down below. I mean, what an awesome conversation. I appreciate you so much for hopping on the podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. And remember, go check out all his content and all his stuff he's working on and going towards. And remember, go to our Shopify store and support our channel on Every Day is Friday. And remember, every day is Friday. Until next time, everybody. Thank you.